The fourfold way. This is a concept that was written by an anthropologist. Her name was Angela Arian, and she has a book. And I first learned about this, I think, the year after it was published in 1994. So it's something that I find useful, helpful. It's another perspective from other cultures about what are some of the archetypes that are represented in some of the ancient native traditions and so on that have the intention to bring harmony and balance into our environment and our own inner nature.
So there are 4 archetypes that she talks about. The first one we'll discuss is the warrior. The warrior is about showing up. It's the intent to be present. It's not just being there. It's full intent. It's I mean, if you think about a warrior, whether it's a corporate warrior, a battle warrior, or anything else, you have to intend to be there.
Well, and it's again about congruency for me. It's that sense of I don't have to fight because I'm so sure of my message that I show that confidence and competency that I'm not questioned nearly as much.
Well,
so it's, in other words, my stake in the ground. You know, I'm the leader.
Yeah, one of the things I might say is, you know, when courage is no longer in doubt, it's no longer questioned, and I think that fits with so many different qualities or values we have.
Right.
So when honesty is no longer in question, it's no longer in doubt. So once that's been answered, it's done, and you move on.
So for the warrior, you're going to show up and choose to be present. This allows us to access the human resources of power, presence, and communication. And then there's the demonstration of our leadership ability. So it is not a fighting warrior, although I could if I had to, and you know, fight for my topic or whatever it would be, or fight to get the concept across. But it is just that sense of the peace, for me, the peaceful warrior, because there's so much strength.
I think it was Dan Millman that talked about the peaceful warrior. That's right. He has the strength, and he has enough strength that he doesn't need to demonstrate it. It's there and it's obvious.
Yeah. So our encouragement in demonstrating and offering these 4 archetypical concepts to you is to have you know what this warrior is one I've really had to work with, because I'm such a teacher that I didn't really sometimes step in with that leadership presence, and so that was one I knew I needed to expand a little bit. It didn't lessen my teaching ability at all. It just meant, okay, I need to step up.
The next one is the healer, and the healer is about paying attention to what has heart and meaning. It's the overall safety, I think, of a group. It's safety in self. It's caring about those things.
Right, and it's keeping the health. They call it Arian describes the 4-chambered heart: clear, open, strong, and warm.
Right.
So that it's all coming from that space of health and healing in the environment and for the people involved in the environment. So the healer is not again, it's not a weak position.
No.
It's not I'll fix you position. It's just doing things that keep through the resources of love and gratitude and acknowledgement and validation, making sure that that presence of safety and health is attended to.
Well said. And then there's the visionary. And the visionary is about truth without blame or judgment. And it's what is possible, what's possible now and what's possible in the future.
Right. And we want to acknowledge that sense of authenticity and my inner vision, my intuition, so that I can share that or inspire others with my vision, because that collaboration is what allows things to move forward, especially if we're doing any kind of team leadership or helping someone really come not just away from but towards what it is they're wanting more of in their life.
Which is I think one of the major components of a leader is someone with vision, and how they choose to move that vision into fruition can vary a great deal, but they have vision.
Right. And then another part of it is about the ways of seeing. So we have our intuition, we have our perception, we have our sense of insight, and then inspiration. Right? So the 4 kinds of seeing.
And then it's the ability to bring our dreams to the world.
Right. And inspire others.
Right.
Yeah, good. So that's the visionary. And so we have, where did our teacher go? Did I miss her?
No,
Okay. Well, it looks like our teacher slide isn't here. So we'll talk about the teacher. We'll add it in.
Right. So
the teacher is about I have an agenda. I have an outcome. I'm clear on what I'm sharing with you. I have my strategies of how to get there, my states of being, that sort of elements of my system. However, I'm not attached. In other words, I can be flexible. I can maneuver detours. I can inspire different kinds of people in my group. But there's a clarity and an openness about the outcome, and it keeps me on track. So I have an agenda to forward the agenda, so I don't get distracted. I don't lose my focus off into something else. It's that sense of we're here for
But not being attached to
yeah,
it.
we're here for a purpose,
Right.
and how we reach that purpose may take a different kind of pathway.
Yeah.
And we will add this in before we upload it, so you'll have it. Okay?
Yeah, whoops.
Yeah, that's okay. What do we call it? Recovery is more important than perfection, right?
Yep.
So we're going to ask you as an exercise now to do your own personal inventory. Think about these 4 archetypes, and I want you to look through the perceptual positions, through your strategic processing filters, and the different ones that might come into play for each of the archetypes. What might the different criteria be?
Yeah, depending on which archetype you're doing an inventory for, because chances are they'll be different.
Yes.
I mean, if they're all going to be the same, you would only need one archetype. So I'm guessing they're going to be different. And it's interesting to go through and find what the difference is, and just to notice where your strengths may be and where your challenges may be.
Yes. So looking for what's your state of being, what are your beliefs that you might have in that archetypal position,
Right.
and if you have someone you can do this with to share, that makes it even more fun. And then we'd like you to share that back with us as you do your inventory. And this is something that you never know when you might use this with a group or a client. Sometimes these metaphoric ways of teaching things are really useful. So you want to add it into your repertoire, your database, right? And give us some feedback on how you enjoyed the exercise and what you found for your own discovery. So we're going to move into platform skills now. And this is our fine-tune now in the nonverbal communication skills that support our message.
Now, some of these things will be more just, they'll sound like standalone techniques, and they'll actually mold together more as we go through the rest of the presentation skills and into group dynamics. So they will be a little bit small chunk, and they will fill in more and more as we go along.
Now, you'll notice Al said a little bit small chunk. That's my left brain lead husband. My right brain lead me says, wow, there's a lot of details, right? So please take these one at a time. They're written down. There's no need for overwhelm. It's just a sense of, okay, as you practice one, you'll get better. Primarily, though, in the big picture, we're looking for the visual. What do we do with our eyes? Where are we looking? Because that matters. What are we doing with our voice? Our intonation, our pitch, our speed, pausing, volume, right?
Right. And then kinesthetically, what are we doing in our body, with our body, our gestures, our posture, our location, both by our gestures and where we, where our body moves.
Like we have, the way our setup is here, we feel, I know you have these slides that you can see, but there's that sense of us needing to let you see the slides, sort of like Vanna White here, showing you the slides and then coming back to talk to you because we don't have the width to be able to stand at the edge of the screen. So, and then we have our breathing. And we find this is so important to support all the other modalities, is to do, how do we regulate our breathing? Because the breathing, we want enough oxygen for the brain to think clearly and to motivate us to keep going, to keep a calmness and a strength. Right? So,
Well, and remember with breathing, even when we talked about rapport, and of course being a presenter, you're going to want to be in rapport. Breathing, when we're talking about gaining rapport, if someone's breathing high, you probably want to make sure you're establishing rapport on purpose. If they're breathing low, you're in rapport. They're not in stress. If they're not in stress, there's a level of rapport. It may not be as deep a rapport as you can elicit, and if they're breathing low, you're in rapport.
right. Remember we talked about the chemicals of
Fight or flight.
fight or flight, right? Whereas if someone gets into that tension, the rapport is not possible.
Right.
Because that person. So rapport is about building safety and aligning with that
Survival isn't necessarily about rapport.
Yeah,
So you
right.
got to do that first.
Okay, so we're going to give you 4 points of focus in this next little section. And that is, where am I focusing my look and my gesture? So we'll be doing not only where our eyes are going, and what's the gesture that goes with it.
Okay. So, and we'll each demonstrate it because we do it similar, but probably a little bit different. So just so you can see it. So one point is about turning our energy or our focus inward. It's a contemplative or
Getting back on track or introspective.
an introspection kind of place. It's okay. I've done that now. Okay, and so you're going to turn it, and you literally just kind of you turn in like this, and you may even go like you may even have a gesture. So it's Marilyn and I really do care that this content is good for you. When we're talking about how to present it, okay, so there's something about it's something meaningful. It's something that goes inward. So we're turning our chin down a little bit, and we're actually our eyes, our focus is coming down toward our chest, right? It's not quite like if you drop something while you're eating, but it's in a sense it's similar to that because you're going inward. It's going like this, and your shoulders may round just slightly. You take a breath, and you come back out.
Well, and just as a time that I've seen this happen is newscasters when they're moving from one news story to the next. They're talking about a concert in the park, and then suddenly they're talking about an airplane crash. They need to be able to break their mood.
Or vice versa.
And this is one of the ways to be respectful of the story that just happened. And then they can take that breath and come back up with a different energy for the next story. Right? Or they will shuffle, they'll look down and move their papers around. It's a way to let you, the audience, take a breath, know that we're sort of...
No, there's a transition of some sort.
Yeah, it's sort of the end of the paragraph or the end of the chapter, if it was in a book. Because as we're talking, we don't have punctuation unless, remember that old comic, Victor Borge?
Yeah.
He was a pianist, and then he would do, if you ever had a chance to see him, he was fun, where he would talk and give you the quotation points.
With different sounds and gestures, like zzz or something.
Yeah, it was fun.
It's really funny.
Okay. So one point is some sort of quiet
turning
inward here, and then coming back up with your next point of focus.
And generally you want to finish a breath while you've turned inward. So you've come in. Then you can take a new breath, something like that. But just so you don't like this and then pop right back up like a little Jack in the Box or something. It's like going down, pausing, maybe making a shift, and then coming back to present.
And sometimes it may just be a head down because it's a slight.
Yeah, it could be.
I've noticed myself do this in a client session when we're at a choice point, and I'll say, and I'll even gesture to my clients and say, we're at a fork in the road here, so let me think for just a moment. And then I'll let my head clear and know, okay, here's the better pathway for the day. Because it lets you know, from my perspective anyway, I've had feedback that the people feel I'm really caring about them. I'm not just rushing through and I'm not doing cookie cutter. I'm contemplating their challenge and what's the best direction to go.
Right.
So that's one point. Then we have the 2 points, which I love, where the speaker and whoever I'm looking at, we're connected.
Eye to eye.
Eye to eye. So it could be you and I.
Very much.
Gesture with each other, or with the you and I out here as the speaker. So it's the gestures of relationships. So sometimes it'll be this kind of thing back and forth. Sometimes there's a flow of energy, and so there's some way to connect us with our gestures and our look.
Right. So generally, it's eye to eye. It doesn't have to be eye to eye. Like, it can be eye to eye this way, and I can think, and I can keep the gesture here. But it's about connecting one and another.
Yeah. So we're creating our group
Between two people.
And then we have our third point, which is the speaker and the looking person, the listener who's looking. We're going to, each of us, be looking at a third point. So let's say if I was going to look at the PowerPoint, right? Another way.
Okay. Anything, it could be a piece of paper. So it would be anything that's not going up the list. It's not a 1 point. It's not a 2 point. It's anything other than the two people. So it could be a piece of paper. It could be a flip chart. It can be something else in the room.
Yes, that the speaker wants to direct that person or that group's attention to.
Right. So I might gesture to my water, right? And so it's in the room, it's here. So it's not a 1 point, it's not a 2 point, it's a 3. It's something else that is observable in the room.
Right, and this is really valuable when there's something that is, like you're having to give critical feedback, or there's something not working so well, or the message is not as positive as you'd like to be connected to.
Okay.
So you and I can keep a relationship, and then we can look at whatever the paper says or the contract says.
Okay, so your batting average?
Oh, okay. So
Okay.
you're my coach?
I'll be your coach.
Okay.
All right, or the owner of the team, I'd rather much.
All right, you're the owner of the team.
All right, so now I'm really glad we had this chance to meet. So notice I'm doing a 2-point, because this part is about relationship, all right?
Yeah.
So I'm really glad we had this chance to meet. And there's something I wanted to have you notice here, and it's, you look at the batting average, you're at bat 38 times, and you've only had 36 hits. And only 24 of those were home runs. You and I know we're on the same team here. We really want success, and I want you to be successful. And there's a way to do that.
Okay, so we're just doing the points right now. So it's a third thing he wants us to look at. It could be for me if it was someone brings up a topic in the group that's a little hot and it's off our agenda. I might say to whoever did that, let's say it's the person in this direction, and they yell out something or they have a comment about a different topic that takes us off. Might be able to say, let's set that aside and we'll pick that up after the meeting, or we can do that next week's agenda. I'm going to take it out of space.
Yeah, that would.
Because I don't have anything in my hand. If I did, I might even use my glasses or something like that to gesture.
Well, and there's obviously a lot of variables and different possibilities. She could go write it somewhere. If she had a flip chart,
yes,
she could write it. She could make a notation, or she has a notebook. I'm gonna make a note of that, and then she'll write it and say, and if we haven't addressed that by the end of before we go to lunch, then I want you to remind me, and then we'll talk about it.
So you can see he made the gesture of connection.
Right.
And yet this leader gets to stay on topic. The person feels heard and honored because it's down here on this piece of paper. However, they have the responsibility to bring it back up again, not him.
Right. And some things need to be answered in the moment, other things do not. If it's something that's off topic, I may ask them to, meet with me, see me during the break, something like that. If it's not going to be valuable for the group, and this is more of a group dynamics thing, but the point about a 3-point is if they come up with something and it needs to be needs to be honored at least. So I write it down. I say, okay, I've got it. And then if they bring it up again, say, yep, it's still there. So I can refer back to it, and so it becomes a 3-point.
Correct. Okay. So then our 4 points. So we have just 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4.
Anything that is not in the room, and this can be time, like in the past, in the present, or in the present somewhere else. Like we're here now, and somewhere in Indiana, there's something else going on. So it's something that is out of the room.
And so this is useful sometimes if there's something more negative that someone brings up, and we want to go, well, we're not going to talk about that today, and we'll just put it outside.
Right.
And gesturing also, if I have a chance, if that's not outside, if that's, someone else is sitting over there, I'm not going to put it on them.
No.
So your gestures are important because there's energy in where you're directing, so you want to be sure you are taking it outside the room, even if I have to move. I can't put it this way because then it would go right on out, so I need to move it past him in some way. So one of the things I found in our own training for presenting is we did some improvisation work, and we call it space work. And that's, if you're going to pick up a glass, you're holding and it has some weight to it, or you're going to undo the lid of the water bottle and put it down, so that we learned how to do this, what we call pantomime or space work, that's credible, that is, it's ingrained, it's believable that I was really doing that.
Watch, and you'll see it more probably on sitcoms than you will real movies and things like that. It's amazing to me how many people will take a drink like this and just there will be no breath, there will be no swallow, it'll just be hand me your water if you would. You'll see somebody in sitcoms, they'll take a drink like this, they'll go, well, you know, and they're already talking. They didn't swallow. Another way to do that.
Incongruences matter.
It sounds silly, but it really makes a difference when you're aware of it.
Yeah.
So when you go like this and you go, now you're ready to speak. Because you didn't just do this, you had it in your mouth and you swallowed it. So you have to actually imagine that. And so that's when Marilyn's talking about gestures. And it's congruent.
Yeah, those things matter. So or I've seen people that are holding a cup or they're holding something.
And they'll just disappear.
And then they just sort of just talk and it disappears. So watch that. It's kind of fun in movies and plays. And suggest if you are going to be doing a lot of presenting, taking some improv class is a fun way to practice. It gets that quick wit and knowing that there are no mistakes, you just keep going.
And I would suggest, if you haven't done it before, we've seen people who want to be competitive.
Yes.
And that's
takes the fun out of it.
Yeah, we did it. Our first experience was at a community education, community college, and it was really a lot of fun. Every once in a while, people would come in and they want to keep score or win, or maybe be more off color than would be appropriate, and they kind of filtered away because the class we took was more about learning and stretching and being comfortable with ourselves.
And building your own skills and quick thinking and developing a point and being able to take what someone else offers and have some fun with it and take it forward. So we may refer to this, I think we have before in some of our presentations to you, that anything we can do to increase our credibility and our flexibility is useful and fun on the way. Okay, so you have the 4 points. So I'm going to I'll name them and you just show me what. So 1 point, 2 points, 3, 4. Right. Okay, so those are the nonverbals, right? So taking a breath, we have one more here, and this is our eye-hand coordination.
So
we know as a sports, you need to have eye-hand coordination too. So we're assuming that all of you have a modicum of this. But what we're speaking of is the eyes and the hand coordinating together.
So once again, it's about congruence.
Yes.
And what is the message communication being redundant? Is it happening in all systems? So if Marilyn, in a moment she's just going to gesture to the flip chart, and I want you to watch her timing, and I'm going to have you do
the wrong way first.
Yeah, do it the least recommended first.
So I'm giving you a presentation. We're talking about eye-hand coordination, and I want you to look over here at the PowerPoint. And I keep talking. It keeps you focused on me.
Yeah. Rarely will someone actually look at the PowerPoint. They will, most of the time, they will keep looking at her eyes because at that point, it's a 2-point conversation. If they do look away at the flip chart, the PowerPoint, keynote, whatever it is, they may look away, but they'll come right back.
Come back to me.
Because she's kept her eyes in this direction. The unconscious message is, I expect you to keep looking at me even though I'm doing this. So that would be least recommended.
Right.
What we recommend
is when I'm saying, okay, so we're going to be doing eye-hand coordination, and we have it right here on our flip chart, and it's showing that when leading a group, the presenter often wants to direct the group's attention to a location with a gesture. And then when I'm done with that, I'm going to drop my hand and come back.
She'll actually curl her fingers a little bit. I don't know whether you can see that, but if she's going like this, she doesn't bring it like this, because that's bringing the message with her. It's almost like the drink of water. It's really there if you've sold it. So if Marilyn kind of does it like this. Another way to do it is just kind of curl your fingers as you pull away. So we have
it there.
We have the information here, and then I just curl my fingers as I pull away.
So it stays there.
Right. So, and if I want to bring it somewhere, so here's the message here, and it's also over here. So I'm joining it over here. I know we're not to that part
okay.
yet.
Can't help it.
I know. So it's the hand-eye coordination that we're looking for at this point. It's, okay, I'm going to gesture to the flip chart, right? Okay, so I can go like this, or I can go like this, and it's off sequence. So it's, what I want to do is, as I'm wanting the group to look at the flip chart, I'm going to start the gesture together. So my hand and my eyes go together.
Right. So that would be one piece of that. And it could be anything that you're gesturing to. It could be something over there that's on the wall that you're asking people to look at. So again, you're looking at that and you're gesturing towards it. Because if I do it this way, they're going to keep looking at me, right?
Right.
Now, there's another variation. Let me go to the next slide. That, whoops, no, backwards. Forward. Now, I want my eyes and hands to go together. And knowing that if I'm going to use my hand with some sort of like a little bounce to it,
Yeah.
it'll have a little more approachability, right? So it's really exciting today. I want you to really look at this that I have over
But
here.
just slightly, it's not like.
Yeah, and it's more palm up.
Palm up.
Right. So the other way would be if I want more credible. Okay, so today, this is what's really important.
And you notice she'll either have her hand directed this way, or it can even be this way, but the palm will be out, not up. And it can even be down. The palm can be down is even more credible.
Right. So, and then we have one more variation, which is if we want to, sort of a level 3 on this one. So I'm going to bring the eyes to the flip chart or the PowerPoint. I'm going to come back to my group and hold my space here.
Because she's still talking probably about what's on the flip chart. And at the same time, she's wanting to make connection.
Right, so I'm stabilizing it.
Right.
Then I'm going to say, and if you look back at the flip chart, so I'm going to bring, now I have both hands there.
Right.
So we can do that. So that's another variation on that. It's kind of fun to practice. It can happen in a meeting room. It can happen with your notes. I know in my office where I do my counseling, I have some of my flip charts on the wall that I will gesture to. The one about inside out, or they become anchors for experience, and so I will use it that way. So we're going to pause here and let you sort of digest that, and then come back.